Why have I quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities, and it's going to be really an amazing experience, and I look forward to you joining me on the jar.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Health Today. I'm your host, Ken Stearns. Another great episode set up. I was just getting some pronunciation lessons from Beth McCord, our next guest. It's going to be a very interesting episode, very educational. I have a feeling, there's different types of episodes, ones where we learn stories or hear stories or get some inspirational. And this is going to be, I think, a little bit on the educational side, Beth. I'm kind of excited. So that was a short little video, an overlay, a voiceover and a video, kind of separate projects that I was doing there, talking about the JAR podcast, the mental health crisis that I saw up close and personal in people's homes as I traveled around the country. So powerful, and inspired me to start this show to interview people in the business. And it started off as, really, I was wanting to interview therapists to find out what was going on. And it started with therapists, and it's just, it's just on this little ecliptical kind of a little device, and, further and further and further from what I thought mental health treatment and mental health looked like, and where and how we got to the root of it. And so as I, further and further around this loop, I find there's more and more really interesting ways to look at this crisis, and more ways to solve it, including Enneagrams.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There you go.
And there we go. Beth, tell us what's with the color palette behind you? What's an Enneagram? Who are you? How did you end up doing this? All that good stuff.
Yeah. What's going on?
What's going on in the Enneagram world?
Yes, I'm Beth McCord, and I am releasing our newest book for Enneagram for Moms. I have written actually 11 other books. So the first one was Becoming Us, which is using the Enneagram in marriage and relationships. I wrote 9 individual 21-day journals for each of the 9 personality types, which is the color behind me. So each type has their own little color. And then after that, we wrote the book More Than Your Number. And then this one is Enneagram for Moms. And so, my journey started back when I was 20 years old. I got married to my husband of 29 years, and which is great, but that's pretty young. And so
that's pretty young.
Yeah. After 2 kids, at 25 years old, we had some turbulence, like lots of people, especially at that age. But we were best friends, and we just couldn't understand, like, why can't we get each other? Why can't we understand each other?
Yeah.
And at that time, we had a friend who was seeing a counselor, and the counselor gave them a book on the Enneagram. And so our friend said, hey, maybe you would like this. And so I just dove headlong into it. It totally made sense to me. And really and it just really helped our marriage. It helped us to understand ourselves personally, and it helped us to understand one another. So the Enneagram helps people to know why they think, feel, and behave in particular ways. So a lot of personalities out there are telling you what you do. So your outward behaviors and characteristics, this is telling you why you do what you do. But it also is going to let you know what you're doing. Is it from a healthy, average, or less healthy place for your personality type? And the reason why that's so helpful is you kind of have this almost thermometer that's kind of letting you know, hey, am I doing okay? Or am I kind of veering off course here in this season of life? And so really the Enneagram, think of, there's 9 basic personality types. And think of them as 9 different colored sunglasses. So each person was born with their own color sunglasses. And
it's a great analogy. Sorry, keep going. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So we've seen the world through that lens, and we just think everyone else is seeing through the same lens. And when they do something or think something different, we're like, what? How could you think of it that way? Or why did you do it that way? We kind of like, literally, I'm scratching my head. We literally scratch our head and sometimes get annoyed or frustrated or angry or just bewildered by other people. But there are 9 valid ways of seeing interpreting, and
Mhm.
reacting to life. And of course, we don't think that way naturally. We think our way is the right way, the only way. But then once we realize, oh, there are 9 valid ways of seeing something.
Hmm.
So think of yourself like at a concert or a sporting event and you're in a stadium. Well, if you're in the lower seats on the corner and someone's a nosebleed way on the other side, you're seeing the same game, but from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And so, why that's so important is that one, it validates people's perspectives, what they see, what they interpret, and then why they do that. So, then the Enneagram takes it a step further. When it's telling you why you do what you do, it's based on the core motivations of your Enneagram type. So, again, there's
Okay.
9 different types, so 9 different lenses, and you have a core there's 4 core motivations. You have a core fear. This is what you're always trying to run away from the most. You have a core desire like, "Oh, if I get that, then life is gonna be pristine and perfect." And so we're always running after it. Then we have a core weakness. This is like your Achilles heel, that thorn in your side that just will not stop tripping you up. And then we have a core longing, a message our heart longs to hear. And we're trying to find it in lots of different either places. It could
Mm.
be fear, it could be a spouse, children, food, drugs. I mean, it could be anything. And we're trying to get that longing met. And so, based on those 4
Interesting.
core motivations, that's what's driving us to think, feel, and behave. But again, goes back to, okay, but am I doing that in a healthy way? Because our personality types can be extremely healthy and helpful to other
Yeah.
people, ourselves, and enjoyable. But they can also start to not do well. And we're kind of on autopilot. And then there's seasons where we're really struggling and not doing well. And it's a spectrum. And so you can kind of fluctuate from highs to low. Even in one day, you can, but you're probably going to range in kind of a zone for a season. Usually
Okay.
we're kind of like fluctuating in that little zone area, and then we might get a little better or a little worse, over the course of time. And so the Enneagram is helpful because if you are able to understand your personality type and why you do what you do,
Yes.
then you can take better assessment of your own mental health and well-being because you're going to be able to assess,
Mm.
huh, okay, when my personality does this, I'm doing really well. But I can notice that I'm actually starting to do these qualities or these attributes, and
Mm.
that's not the best. And so it helps us to have this alert system. I call it like a rumble strip on the highway. When you're driving down the highway,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you start to not pay attention
Yes.
or you fall asleep at the wheel, whatever it is, you're gonna hit that rumble strip. And if you're going really fast and you hit that rumble strip, you might not notice it. And then there you are in the ditch again. And you might throw up your hands in the air and go, "How did I get here again? Haven't I learned my
Yeah.
lesson?"
Yeah. It's so many times, right?
Right? But we do those same things because we have the same
Yeah.
personality
Yeah.
as we
Same there.
did
That's
years
right.
ago. So if we realize, oh, I'm going to keep kind of veering off in the same pattern, the same way,
Hmm.
now if I am more aware that I do those things,
Yes.
I hopefully will be aware when that rumble strip is heard. And so I'll give you an example. So
That's
I'm
good.
the type 9. So there's 9 personality types. I'm the type 9, the peaceful accommodator. I absolutely hate conflict, tension of any kind. And so I just want peace and harmony. So if my husband, let's say, I'm sensing some tension in the air. And a lot of people, they're fine with tension. They're okay with conflict. That happens. It's not a big deal. You just talk
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's say he's feeling a little revved up inside, but nothing big. I can feel that energy. And all of a
Yes.
sudden, I'm going to start to want to people please. I'm going to start to want to make him happy. But what happens with my personality? So I I desire peace and harmony, but I fear the conflict. The weakness of the 9 is sloth. And what it means with sloth is an internal not knowing. I actually will try to merge with other people, go along to get along. And when I go along to get along with other people, I lose myself in the process. So
Mm.
that's my rumble strip. When I start to veer off, I'm just starting to people please, even if it's a little. It starts to get into accommodating too much. And then if I'm really unhealthy, I really kind of become a doormat. So now, at its healthiest, I am very understanding, I'm very empathetic and
Mm.
compassionate, and I know how to assert myself on the behalf of others while not losing myself. So you can kind of see the same personality can do it in a healthy way, but
Yes.
then it can slip into those unhealthy tendencies. So when I am starting to help someone or care for them or be flexible or
Mm.
accommodating, that's a rumble strip, and I get the opportunity to then say, "Am I doing this from a healthy place? Am I still asserting my will, my desires? Or am I starting to merge with other people and forgetting myself and then slowly becoming that doormat that people can just walk all over?" And so the Enneagram is just going to help each of the personality types know where to celebrate themselves, where to grow
Okay.
towards, but also those rumble strips, those
Yeah, yeah.
alert systems, so that not that they shame themselves, even though as humans do it pretty easily, not to shame and to guilt ourselves, but to go, "Oh," it's kind of like if we have a bum knee and we got to go to the doctor. "Oh, okay. I'm starting to do these things. I need to get a coach.
Yeah,
I
it's
need
a
to
good.
get a counselor. I need to talk to my friend or my sponsor," whatever it is in that person's life that can help them to get back on the healthiest path for their personality type. That's what we're really wanting the Enneagram to do for them.
Mm.
So that's in a nutshell what the
Yes.
Enneagram is.
Yeah. Very do this is interesting because there's a lot of questions running around my head. One is, I guess we realize we don't change, right? We are who we are in a way, and,
Right. Well,
it's
there's a mixed answer with that, and the
yeah,
Enneagram
yeah,
is like an onion. It's very complex.
okay.
What I just told you was the top surface of it.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
have
we're not gonna get to the master
Yeah.
class, but at
So
least know what it's about, right?
so with these colors behind me,
Yeah,
so the type 9, which is right here, me,
okay, the
is
purple, yeah.
purple. But when you go into Sherman-Williams, and if I were to say, "Yeah, I'm looking for the color purple," they're gonna be like, "Which shade?"
Which yeah, yes, yes.
So even though there are a plethora of type 9s out there, none of us are exactly alike.
Yeah,
We have the
okay,
same core
okay.
motivations, but we have different life experiences, talents, all the
Yes.
things. And so it doesn't put us in a box per se. It helps us to discover who we truly are, but to become the healthiest version of ourselves. So, and there's lots of other layers to how actually the Enneagram shows there's a lot of dynamics to it. So you are your main type, but we actually use all 9 types to varying degrees. And that's where that
Mm,
mixture of color and shade comes in. And so what I want people to recognize with that is you're unique for who you are, but this just gives you kind of a roadmap to your internal world.
yeah,
And then
yes.
you're going to piece in your story, your
Mhm.
passions, your desires, all of those things as well. So it's not, um, again, it's not trying to pigeonhole you into one
Yeah.
place. And our personality, the main type doesn't change, but we do flux in how we use our personality, again, in healthy and less healthy ways. And
Mm.
so there's a lot more to go into that. But I just want people to recognize uh, there is growth, there is change as we go about this.
Yeah, and that was a dialogue I had in my head, and I kinda came back the full circle of it was the awareness of who you are and the motivations and understanding those core like you said, the 4 cores and how you operate. Okay, then you can start to
Yeah.
internalize, "Oh, okay, the rumble strip hits," and you're like, "Ding.
Yep.
Oh, I'm slipping into becoming a doormat. Uh-oh, hold on, let
Yep.
me pull up, pull up, pull up."
Yep.
And, don't go down that road. So I think it is interesting. You're not gonna change yourself, but you'll be more aware of how you think and operate
Yeah.
in different situations.
I'll give you another wonderful
Yeah.
example. So the type 8 is the passionate protector. They are
Ooh.
very misunderstood. They are a lot of times people experience them as bulldozers, okay?
Yeah.
And I like to show people they're actually big diesel snowplows because I grew up in the Midwest, and
I
in the
love that
Midwest,
analogy.
yeah, in the Midwest, the North, the Northeast, if
Yes.
you don't have a big diesel snowplow, you're not going to get the highways and the street systems cleared with a good amount of snow. You can't get a Ford pickup truck with a little shovel on the
Yep.
front. It's not going to
Ain't
do
doing
the
it.
work. So the type 8s are those big diesel snowplows. They were designed to plow a path for others. So when a type 8 is at their healthiest, they're going to see the people in front of them and say, "Hey, get behind me. I got you. This is no problem for me." Now, that is an example
I love
of
that.
a person like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There were a lot of people in the civil rights
Ah,
movement, right? But he was like, "Hey, I'll be the front runner. I will take the
yes.
hits." He had a lot of support system behind him and with him, but he was that front runner, that
Yeah, yeah.
snowplow. But then when you start to get less healthy, the type 8 is they're really focused on where they're going and why they're doing what they're doing. And so if they get too focused, they might not see the cars on the side of the road and they start nicking them. And the people are like, "Hey,
Yeah.
what are you doing?" And the 8 is like, "I'm plowing, don't you see?" Like, kinda like, "Why
Yeah.
are you there?" And so there's just this misunderstanding between, the 8 and other people, and the other people are thinking you're a bulldozer when the 8 is really thinking, "But I'm trying to help."
Yeah.
And so but they don't realize they've kinda slipped into this less healthy, kinda average autopilot category. Now, an unhealthy 8, they don't care. I am who I am. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I don't really care who you are, what you are. Take it or leave it. It's my way
Yeah.
or the highway.
Yes. Yeah.
And it can get to the point of really unhealth where they purposely are plowing over people. And that would be like someone at the very unhealthy level would be like a
Mm.
Saddam Hussein or someone of that character who
Yeah, he thinks he's helping.
literally is literally gonna do what they wanna do. Now, you can see they're still the same personality type, so think of it like a column. At the very top is the healthiest
Okay.
attributes of that
Okay.
personality type, like a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Of course, he has his own, issues, but you get the point of
Yeah.
what that
Yes.
could look like all the way down, what it could look like when you're at your most unhealthy characteristics. And so that's where if we can monitor and become aware of our own
Mm.
internal health, whether it's emotional health, mental health, physical health, all of these things, we can hopefully over time become the healthiest version of ourselves, which is a joy to us and it's a joy to others.
When you did the first book, it was like a self-help thing, right? You were trying to
Mhm.
rescue rescue the marriage, right? Or maybe
Yeah,
not
right.
rescue it, but or maybe just improve it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe just, you felt like it wasn't as good as it could be, and what are we missing? Like you're saying, like, what are we missing? Um, and you did everything, and when you was all published and said and done, and after some time, when you look back, what was the maybe 2 thoughts. What was the mistake you made? What was the
Mm,
les or the lesson? When you look back and you're like, because I mean, you're now in a completely different place of understanding when you were when you
right.
started, right? I mean, you are on
Yeah.
another level. You are way
Yeah.
higher up on the column, as
Yeah.
far as the understanding of how it works.
Yeah,
What was that big lesson when you got started?
I think the big lesson that we learned that we unfortunately didn't include in the book, though we did include it in one of our courses for marriage, is
Mm.
what's called the dance. And actually, it's in this most recent book, Enneagram for Moms. And the dance is an infinity loop that shows how two Enneagram types. So we'll take an example of the two types that I've
Oh,
mentioned today, a 9 and an 8. They're
okay.
very different, right? You've got the
Whoa, but what a powerful marriage if it works.
right, the peaceful accommodator and the,
And the bulldozer?
passionate protector, yeah.
Woo!
And so you have the infinity loop, and so each loop is one of the Enneagram types. Inside that loop is their core
Okay.
motivations.
Okay.
Now, if you put a
Interesting.
line horizontally in that
Yeah.
affinity loop, everything under that horizontal line is the internal core motive or is your internal workings, like what's getting activated inside
Okay.
that people can't see. And sometimes we can't even see in
Yes.
ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
Above that line is the behaviors, the external attributes that we're showing. So let's take a type 8. So in the infinity loop, right? They're connected. So let's
Mhm.
say the type 8 husband is starting to get, they're really intense. They're very passionate. They know where they want to go. Everyone either get behind me or get out of my way, right? So they're just passionate. And so they bring a lot of intensity and
Yeah.
energy. So let's say they're starting to get passionate, intense. And so let's say they're talking and their volume gets louder. Their passion almost feels like, are they angry? Like what's going on? Well, that can land on the type 9 spouse. So now we've got the outward energy coming down and hitting the type 9's internal motivations, and the type 9 doesn't know
Ah,
what to think or feel about this. Like, is this bad? Is this good? Are we in conflict? Are we not? It's kind of like, and so that, like, let's say if it's me, I'm like kind of bracing myself, thinking
yeah.
it's bad or wrong because it's the thing I fear the most. And so
Ooh,
what
yes.
I'm going to do, I'm going to be in this fear place, and then my personality or my behaviors externally might be, again, trying to accommodate and people please, like, are you okay? Are you upset? And all these things. And that's going to land on the 8 actually as being very annoying. Like,
I I
I'm
I
just being me. I'm just talking, like, and then they're more upset, and then their
I
upsetness gets me
I
upset.
felt this earlier. That's what I wanted to go to earlier. I was like, "Oh, you're just gonna be so annoying when you do that." Like, when you start becoming a doormat for the number 8, like, they're just gonna be
Right.
super annoyed.
But the 9 thinks they're actually doing what everyone else wants them, or
Right, right.
what
Yeah,
they
they're
think
trying to
everyone else
please.
should do, right?
Right.
And so we live life through the lens that we see. And what's so great about the Enneagram is it helps. So if I'm not married to a type 8, but my husband is one of the numbers that can be a lookalike to type 8. So it
Okay.
makes sense. But if I, as a type 9, can take off my lens, even if it's just for a second, and put on his lens and understand why he does what he does, and have vocabulary
Mm.
and words,
Ah,
then it's like I'm putting on his lens, even if it's just for a second, to have understanding, compassion,
yes.
empathy,
Yeah, yeah.
forgiveness. And so that can help me to move towards him with curiosity versus wrong assumptions. And we actually call those wrong assumptions a suicide, because you're assuming incorrectly other people's
I
thoughts,
love that.
feelings, and behaviors.
Yeah.
And we all do it because we're thinking everyone's like us and doing things like us. But what if we were instead, we're going to make assumptions. That's just
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
human nature. But what if we stopped and became curious with those assumptions and
Mm.
asked clarifying questions? So the type 8's probably having the best time of his life, being loud and boisterous and fun and actually they call it confrontational intimacy. That's what 8's call it. Well, the 9's like, "No, that's like basically living in hell."
That's like terror, right? You're basically like a dragon flying through my neighborhood.
Yeah, but
Yes.
the
Yeah.
type the type 9 spouse can go, "Okay, let me ask before I think he's all upset and about ready to blow this whole thing up, what if I just was curious? Like, are you upset or are you having a fun, engaging conversation with energy?" And the type 8's gonna be like, "Yeah, this is just like a fun, entertaining conversation." Now, the
Yeah.
type 9 may or may not be in a place that they can engage in that way.
Mm.
If we're activated, if we're not in the best place, then maybe the type 9 says, "Totally get it. I'm not quite in a space to do that right now. I totally get that's what you enjoy. I think I'm gonna bow out or back out just for now, and then hopefully I can come back and have that engaging conversation with you when I feel a little bit more ready for that kind of conversation." And that's a much healthier way than the type 9 literally disassociating and checking out, which would really frustrate and upset the 9 or the 8.
Yeah, the 8, yeah.
So it's the removing our lenses and putting on each other's lens so
I
that we
love that.
can come together, not
Yeah, not change, yeah.
standing in a whole new way.
I had another thought. So maybe take us and that's very I mean, that explanation is really cool, and I like that my takeaway on that is just a reminder of taking a moment to understand to sit in somebody else's shoes and to try to get what's going on and understand them. Tell me about the new book with moms.
Hmm.
I just did I just did an interview with Emily and Guerriere. I'm gonna get her last name wrong, but I interviewed Emily and she was talking. She did an episode on depression, postpartum
Mm,
depression, and
yep.
she's done some work around that. She's a therapist and a doctor, and just from sharing some of that. And so,
Yeah.
how does your new book work? What's it all about for moms?
Yeah.
Because my daughter's a new mom. I mean, 1 year,
Mine
you know,
too.
sh- not new. This is her third, but
Okay.
still a new. She's in that 1 year. She's post 1 year, and I was asking
Yep.
her when I was home. I was with her for like this. I spent about 8 weeks there, and it was amazing. And I was asking her like, "How you feeling? How you
Right.
doing?
Right.
How's the chemicals? What's
Right.
happening with your chemicals? What's your
Yep.
body doing? What's the body doing to you, and how are you doing?" So tell us about the new book and
Yeah, so
what's
I
going.
wrote this book really for myself in the sense of
Oh,
I know that I know lots of moms were in the position I was back when my
yes, right,
kiddos were
right.
little. My kids are now 23 and 25, and my daughter has just had her first baby. So
Con-
I'm a new grandmother.
Congratulations, Grandma. That's
And
so
so
cool.
so I wrote it for not just young moms, it's for even grandmas and great grandmas.
Hmm.
The whole point of the book is it's not so much to know your kids and to change them or to be the perfect parent to
Okay.
their personality type because you actually can't know their personality type until they can type themselves, which isn't at least until their teenage years or if not older, depending on
Mm,
how understanding they are themselves and do they even care? Do they want to know?
right.
Um, but I mean, you can be curious about, and kind of think and hold a couple of types maybe loosely, but it's more about the mom understanding herself, unpacking her own developmental
Okay.
story, because
Mm,
the more I am self-aware, self-regulated, and understand where I excel the most as a type 9 mom, but also where I slip up and have my issues, I can actually give myself a lot more compassion and
yes, yeah.
understanding and get help when I need it and
Mm,
celebrate who I really am. I'm not gonna be a type 8 mom. That's just not who I am, and that's okay. And I think what most moms do, we watch, we're looking at social media, we're reading books, and everyone is giving their own viewpoint of motherhood
how a good mom is like this or
like
does
this.
this. And it's like, yeah, it's not in my DNA.
Exactly, and so we try so hard to be this, that,
Oh,
and the other, and then we shame
okay.
ourselves.
Yes.
Now, all 9 types are incredible moms at their healthiest. But that doesn't mean it has to always be us that becomes that. So, if we know what our type is, then we can kind of focus on our map and figure
Mm,
out, where am I? Am I getting off course or am I heading in a healthy direction? And so and that helps us to really celebrate who we are. If I was supposed to be a type 8 mom, I would have been created a type 8. But for whatever reason, I'm a type 9 with my 2 kiddos, and that's perfectly fine and normal and great. So how do I live this life the best way that I can
mm,
while giving myself the most grace and compassion because we live in a really hard world. And so I'm wanting to help moms to unpack their own story and understand themselves so they can actually build themselves up in the healthiest way directly for their personality type. So it's like I'm tailoring all the messages they long to hear just for them.
yeah. So good. You must be really proud. You must be. Is this the piece? I mean, I'm sure you've got more coming, but
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
does this feel like everything's
This
come together in this book so
this
far?
feels I mean, I love all of my books, but this feels like a gift wrapped up with a bow.
Yeah.
All the women that I know
Yeah.
are struggling the way I struggle because, like I said, when I listen or look at a type 8 mom who's doing all of these things, I admire it, and it should be admired, it should be held
Yeah.
with esteem, but that doesn't mean I need to be that or do it that way, and or a 4 or a 3 or whatever,
Yeah.
the 9 types are out there. I need to focus on me being the healthiest me for my kiddos. And I just feel like now in this, I think all eras needed this book, but I'm just really excited that now with all the social media, all the books, all the things going on, there's hopefully a book that can stand out and say, let's focus on you. You were
You.
created in
You.
the most beautiful way. Let's focus on you.
Amen to that, right? I mean, we are just absolute gifts at these little puzzles, where these little mysterious creatures here having
Yeah.
a little earthling experience
Yep.
and trying to figure it out. And what a great to have, instead of these other people to live up to, and these other images and
Yep.
and social media, which is, good God, is probably about as far away from real as you can get. So
Right.
first off, just to, don't believe any of that stuff. And then if you do believe it, it's not you,
Yeah.
like you said. And I love the part where you're talking about just giving grace for ourselves, right? This
Yeah.
starts with just, giving yourself a little bit of love and some
Mhm.
acceptance, a little forgiveness, give yourself some compassion,
Yeah.
take a deep breath, dig into Beth's book,
Yeah.
find out who you are, and be your best version of yourself. And
Yeah.
that's, as you were talking, I was reminded of the quote, and it's different iterations of it. And I wish I had the beautiful one. But basically, my world changed. The world changed when I changed my own world,
Mm,
myself.
that's
So when I was, and reality is the world's not going to change for you. So we have to
mm-mm.
change ourselves, and
Yep.
then everything around you changes.
Yep.
And so I
Yep.
really do love this. I love this concept of the book. Definitely on the gift list. I'm going to go back now. I'll have to pre-order it for my daughter.
Yeah. I think she would love it.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. And she's interesting because she's very quite proud of her work, her self-work, because she's even, talking to, if it's a therapist or a
Mhm.
child development person, a combination, and how to be a better mom.
Yep.
And so how her kids react, right? When the kids start having a meltdown and stuff. And I look at the situation, I'm watching, I'm there, and I realize, back when I was, when I was the dad, I would have lost my poopy. I'd have,
Yeah.
like the kids are doing this and that, and I just would have complained, like, oh my God, I would have lost my mind.
You're
And
right.
she's
Right.
she's getting so good at
Yeah.
holding up the mirror for them and helping them.
Yeah.
The best part about it is they're learning how, by giving, matching their style and figuring out how to treat each one a little bit differently,
Yep.
but still within the framework of being a parent. And I think this is great stuff. I love what you're doing, Beth.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a joy. I absolutely love doing what I do.
Okay, give us one more. The plug is where? How do we find it again? Amazon.
Amazon, and pretty
Okay.
much anywhere, but you can also go to enneagramformoms.com
Okay.
and you can order from there. We've got some extra bonuses, free resources, all the things.
Mm,
You can actually find your parenting style there as well. So, and it's free. So, yeah,
oh, I love
Enneagram
that.
for moms.
Enneagram for Moms. So that'll be, if you're listening on the audio version, that will be down in the show notes, on Spotify or iHeartRadio or Apple Podcasts. This show now is live, and I'll try to get that in the notes. We'll plug it in the LinkedIn notes as well when I jump in, or maybe you can jump in and drop it into the LinkedIn
Yeah.
note that's on this message as well.
Yeah. Let's see if I can get that in there. All right.
Yeah. Beth, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Great to meet you. Great to talk to you. I really appreciate, again, like I said, appreciate what you're doing very
Yeah.
much. And
Thanks for having me on. This was a joy.
yeah, it's really great fun. Thanks again, everybody, for listening and supporting mental health today. If you like the show, like what we're doing, and you're listening on the audio version, drop down and give us some notes, give us some love, give us some stars. And if something was really controversial or spicy, write a gnarly note. And well, even better. We like those even more. People seem to like to write those, and I love them even more, especially on my YouTube stuff. We always get the best comments on YouTube. That's the wildest place on the planet. Beth, hang on for 20 seconds. I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, loose, baby.
We're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals at Public Glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're going to go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.